as the paper currencies begin to collapse, and you need to go to a gold-backed system, which I expect in a matter of years, the people with the gold, I call it the U.S. the Saudi Arabia of gold. We're a superpower in gold.
But that's not an argument for staying in the euro necessarily. I mean, if the euro collapses, you may have a lot of gold, but you may not want to share it with your neighbors anymore. Well, that raises some geopolitical issues. Their gold is in the United States, so one of the scenarios I have is the United States would confiscate the European gold. No, I'm serious. It's what we've done before. And we've done this before? Well, yeah. Well, FDR in 1933 confiscated all the gold of all the citizens of the United States. This would just be an extension of that. And again, this all comes out of this International Emergency Economic Powers Act of 1978. The president has dictatorial powers. When I say dictatorial, I don't use that in a pejorative or hyperbolic way. I mean, he actually can just give executive orders to preserve the national security of the United States in economic space.
Well, I pay attention to the price of gold, but I think it reflects a lot of things. It reflects global uncertainties. I think the reason people hold gold is as a protection against what we call tail risk, really, really bad outcomes. And to the extent that the last few years have made people more worried about the potential of a major crisis, then they have gold as a protection.
Do you think gold is money?
No.
I don't even want any gold. I just don't understand why people crave it so much. And
there's no inherent value, no intrinsic value for gold. It's not a producing asset. The only advantage is that you don't have the problem of printing, of creating, in a fiat manner, creating more of it.
The one characteristic about a country that debases its currency and goes to a paper currency, the currency always self-destructs. It always ends. It is declared by government that this is money, it's paper and it's money, and it's by government declaration. Where if you use a gold coin, the value comes from the marketplace, and government can't reproduce this, so it's always exchangeable, and the people will accept it. If this is sunk on a boat in a ship now, or it was 500 years ago, you dig it up, but that's tremendous value. There will be numismatic value plus the real value of gold.
Look at that. I mean, it's a kind of a small mark, up $60.
Practically no one understands gold.
Right.
Here's the way to understand it. It is not an investment. Warren Buffett's right about that. It is not a commodity. It is money. If you want money, you should have gold.
Bernanke said it's not money.
And then the South Koreans went out the next day and bought 25 tons. So they're arguing.
Bernanke says it's not money. Yeah, he did. He said that when Ron Paul asked him. Oil's not money either. So.
You also have another problem with gold, and that is that if you link an economy to gold, and gold is only growing at 0.5%, then how does the whole economy grow?
So, on the one hand, demand for gold is growing. On the other hand, supply is slowing down. That's one factor in the steeply rising price. Another is that more and more investors see gold as a safe haven for their money. In the last 2 years, the price for a fine ounce of gold has increased by almost 80% and has now reached the psychological barrier of $1,000 an ounce. Another factor in gold's favor, it's priced in US dollars. The dramatic fall in the value of the greenback means gold is still relatively cheap for investors in the Eurozone, and that too is pushing demand.
According to some, it's about protecting civilians.
And our resolve is clear. The people of Libya must be protected.
Others say it's about oil.
The only reason they're interested with Libya is about the oil. You think we'd be in Iraq if the major export there was broccoli?
But some are convinced intervention in Libya is all about currency, specifically Gaddafi's plan to introduce the gold dinar, a single African currency made from gold, a true sharing of the wealth.
It's one of these things that you have to plan almost in secret, because as soon as you say you're going to change over from the dollar to something else, you're going to be targeted. There were two conferences on this, one in 96 and another one in the year 2000, called the World Mataba Conference, organized by Gaddafi. And everybody was interested. I think most countries in Africa were keen.
Gaddafi didn't give up. In the months leading up to the military intervention, he called on African and Muslim nations to join together to create this new currency that would rival the dollar and euro. They would sell oil and other resources around the world only for gold dinars. It's an idea that would shift the economic balance of the world. Countries' wealth would depend on how much gold they have, not how many dollars they trade. And Libya has 144 tons of gold. The UK has double that, but 10 times the population.
If Gaddafi had an intent to try to reprice his oil or whatever else the country was selling in the global markets and accept something else as a currency, or maybe launch a gold dinar currency, any move such as that would certainly not be welcomed by the power elite today who are responsible for controlling the world's central banks. So yes, that would certainly be something that would cause his immediate dismissal and the need for other reasons to be brought forth for removing him from power.
It's happened before. In 2000, Saddam Hussein announced Iraqi oil would be traded in euros, not dollars. Sanctions and an invasion followed.
The continual ranting about stopping Hussein, who is totally defenseless against our attacks, from developing weapons of mass destruction, ignores the fact that more than 30,000 very real nuclear warheads are floating around the old Soviet empire.
But I do have one question. During the crisis, or any time that you're aware of, has the Federal Reserve or Treasury participated in any gold swaps?
We don't. The Federal Reserve does not own any gold at all. We have not owned gold since 1934. Before 1934, the Federal Reserve did own gold. We turned that over by law to the Treasury. We have simply an accounting document that is called gold certificates.
China taking a shot at us, wasting no time saying it. I quote, "The good old days of borrowing are over." In Europe, G7 finance ministers will meet this weekend to discuss the impact of the downgrade, and the Dow losing 700 points this week, and that was before the S&P announcement. Saudi Arabia, the first market on earth to trade on this news since this news, and it wasn't pretty. Stocks there down about 5.5%. Banking issues in particular getting clobbered. The problem here is not the downgrade, it's the debt that brought it on. A message that seems to be getting lost in this drama, but not with my next guest, Republican presidential candidate Ron Paul, on the phone. Congressman, you weren't and aren't surprised, but what now?
Talk much about Ron Paul. Anyone get the sense Ron Paul, like crazy Uncle Ron? Listen, I've done a show on why conservatives shouldn't vote for Ron Paul. Some of the stuff, and just pretty out there.
It is pretty out there, but Iran. I would say he had Iran, yeah, and some of his positions are to the left of Barack Obama.